God's answer to my prayer of growing in detail was not, here's a little bit of extra gifting for you. Here's a little extra blessing over you. Yeah. No, he's like, here's somebody better than you at your job.
He sent somebody to challenge you.
Good luck. Yeah. Figure it out, big boy. Yeah. Like, seriously, it was like, that was a reason. That person sharpened me in so many ways. Welcome to Courageous Stewards, the podcast where legacy meets leadership.
We believe stewardship isn't just about managing resources. It's about multiplying impact, honoring purpose, and building with eternity in mind. Each week, we dive into business-focused discussions on real estate investing on a foundation of faith and family.
We have a desire to inspire listeners with a heart to reclaim their time, talents, and treasures for something greater. Whether you're growing your portfolio, leading a business, or a family, we need to become the best version of ourselves.
This is your space to gain wisdom, walk in courage, and steward what matters most.
Let's build what lasts. Let's lead with love.
Let's become courageous stewards.
All right, guys, we are back. This is episode 10. We're so excited to be here, and quite honestly, we're honored to be a part of y'all's life in some small way every week. And I just wanted to take this first little bit of time at the beginning of this episode just to say how awe-inspired we are by the response that we've gotten from people in the community. We've had people reach out to us to tell us that we're encouraging them to get started. And we've had people that we've met on the street now that have said they've heard our podcast or watched a few of our shorts, and they're encouraged. And it's just really exciting for us. It's an honor to be in this space. And we are just blown away. We never thought that it would take off like it has. And I know that it will continue to do so because it's inspired by God. And we're trying to put Him first in everything that we do. And so it's been amazing. We're excited. And we know it's going to just continue to grow from here. But we wanted to thank you guys for tuning in, watching us, listening to some of the things that we have to say. We've experienced some things over the years that maybe a lot of y'all haven't. And if we can give you a nugget that you can plug into your own life and use it, we're blessed to be able to do so. So this episode is, like I said, episode 10. And I want Sean to explain what it is that we're going to be talking about this week.
All right. So today on this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the reason, the season, and the lifetime. These are those things that happen throughout our journey in our life, and they're either for a reason, for a season, or for a lifetime. So when we start to look into these things, we kind of want our listeners to be focused with the perspective that even in those moments of struggle, whatever that season or reason was that you've gone through, that on the other side of that, there is something that's going to come out of it where you've learned and you've grown. It's great to just go to Scripture and know the truth, because in Romans 8:28, it says, God works all things for the good for those who love Him and are called to His purpose. So I think going on truth alone, you can't argue that on the other side of a struggle or of a difficult time in your life, there's not a promise that's going to take you somewhere. It's going to grow you or shape you in some way. So we're going to be sharing some stories today that we've personally gone through that we can look back now and reflect on and see the promise. It's easy to sit here and share these stories now because we're on the promise side, but it's not as easy in those moments where the stuff's happening, you're going through it, and you start to lose hope, you start to get discouraged, and you want to point at everything else around you and go, this is why my life's not working.
Right.
But I look back at those seasons and those things we've gone through, and it's having that positive perspective on what can I learn? How is this going to shape me? And what does the promise look like that God has in hands for me?
Yeah. I don't think you ever get to the place where you've arrived. It's going to be an ebb and flow. You're going to go through seasons of difficulty and challenge, and other seasons where you feel like that challenge is now coming to fruition and you're able to use it to maybe help someone else or apply it to your own life to better your own situation.
Yeah.
When we talk about reason, season, and lifetime, what we're really expressing is relationships, right? Connections with other people. So if you put those connections with other people into three categories, you can typically drop them into one of these three areas. They're either in your life for a reason, they're there to challenge you, to encourage you, to inspire you, whatever the case is. Each person's going to be different. I bet if our listeners think back in their own lives, they can think of people who fit that category. Mm-hmm. They were there for a reason. The next one would be a season. You have people who come into your life for a season, and at the time you think, okay, this is a lifetime relationship.
Yeah.
In your mind, it's just this person's going to be here forever. And you don't really recognize that they're there for a reason, but only for a season. They're going to move away. Their job is going to change. Their situation is going to, change or whatever. And so they're only going to be a part of your life for a season. There's value in that. And especially if you can recognize that this is a seasonal relationship, it's not going to be a forever relationship.
Yeah.
And I need to dive in and value the relationship while it's here. Do what I can to collect and serve in this relationship.
Well said.
It's balanced back and forth. And then you have those very few and far between lifetime relationships. And again, you don't always know where those lifetime relationships are going to be. Most of the time, I would say for many, many people, those are the people closest to you, which is typically family. But there are generally some trickled in relationships that will last a lifetime.
Yeah.
And always be there and always be available. And I'm sure, again, our listeners can think of those people that are just staples in their life. They're always there, somebody they can always confide in, call, talk to. They get together with their families, enjoy community with each other. So those are kind of the three areas that we want to dive into and talk a little bit about. And basically, I guess, just from a story perspective, who do we have in our lives, without maybe saying specific names, but experiences where we can look back and recognize this was for a reason, a season, or this is definitely a lifetime situation.
Yeah, I think the key perspective here as we talk through some of this is realizing and having that perspective, like Jake was saying, going into that season or that connection or that relationship and going, there's something in here that's going to serve me, and I want to make sure that I'm also serving in this. But it leaves permission to know. I think we all have that desire when we meet somebody or we have that connection. We feel like we have to be connected to them forever. Like, I can't lose you. You're a person in my circle now. Having this perspective and understanding that God brings things and people into your life for reasons and seasons, not necessarily forever, leaves permission to understand it's okay.
Yeah.
This can go. I may need this situation for now, but you have to go, I got to break off. It's not serving me and it's not serving you anymore, and it's not helping either of us. It's more important, actually, that you have grace for the other person or that season and move out of it. And give yourself permission to do that so that you can go to that next thing. Maybe be able to serve someone else differently or be poured into in a way you hadn't recognized yet.
Yeah, holding on to that relationship for too long is almost harmful for you and for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. So do you have an example of someone? If you don't, I have many, many examples that I've thought through.
I wrote a list.
Okay. That's awesome. That's
I have
great.
a
So
list.
did I. So why don't we talk about somebody from a reason perspective that you have gained value from, maybe even based around the real estate space, because that's primarily what we are in.
Yeah, absolutely. I was connected with somebody at my local church, actually, who was in a leadership role there, and he was developing me in my leadership. But at the same time, he was very much a reason. God put him right in my path, and he was willing to serve and be that. And so just the one morning, we had just gotten together at Bob Evans for breakfast, and we're sitting there talking, and I was asking him some questions. He was talking about being done at church, and I'm like, what are you going to do for work? And he's like, I don't have to work right now. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? And that was where he was sharing some of his portfolio and the fact that he doesn't have to work right now. He was just serving at the church for his heart, to be a follower of Christ. So he starts telling me how this stuff works. And I had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad years ago, but I hadn't sat down with somebody that could just say, hey, you can do this. Here's how it looks. You do it like this, this, and this. I had expectations about it looking a certain way, and he was just breaking down. It's not how it's supposed to look right off the start. And so he gave me all this encouragement, believed in me, and then walked alongside me in the start. It was that very moment that I was trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. While I was discovering my gifts, we talked about that in some earlier episodes. I was trying to align what I was good at with what I should be doing. And that breakfast that morning where Aaron was sitting at that bench having breakfast was that moment, was that reason. And it propelled me into this whole other trajectory. So that was definitely part of my journey.
Yeah, so this person is still a part of your life, still an encouragement. You
Absolutely.
Still see them on a regular basis. Yep. They were certainly dropped into your life for a reason at a time when you kind of were floundering back and forth about what's my purpose, where do I go from here, I have a job. I'm pretty good at it. It pays well, but I don't feel fulfilled necessarily in it.
Yeah.
And this person was able to kind of inspire you to reach for more.
Yep.
And for that reason, he was a reason person in your life.
Absolutely. I don't know that I would have taken the leap without that breakfast that morning.
Yeah.
I tell him all the time how much he changed the trajectory of my life. It's crazy.
Yeah, I have a similar situation. Mine was actually right out of high school. I had a desire to be involved in real estate in some capacity, but when you're 18, you don't know what you don't know. And I knew like I wanted to be in the real estate space. I had a little bit of money, but I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I think that's probably a lot of our listeners that are like, I would love to be in the real estate space in some capacity, but I don't even know where to get started. I don't know how to get financing. I don't know how to find the right property. I don't know how to run the numbers.
Yeah.
You know? And I had this person who right now I can't even remember how exactly we met. I feel like somehow I found out that he was an investor. He had a bunch of low-grade properties that were in really poor shape, and one of those properties he didn't want to mess with. He had too many projects going on. His crew was spread out too thin. And so he was willing to not only sell me the property, but pour into me a little bit on what his experience had been, what his knowledge was in the industry, and give me some pointers to get started. He came over, I remember, to my parents' house, because I was still living at home at the time, and sat down with me with the purchase agreement, with his contracts and all of the documentation that I might need as a real estate investor. He sat there and talked to me for a while. I realize in retrospect that a lot of what he was doing was just trying to close the deal. But for me at the time, the value was unbelievable because I didn't know where to go or what to do. And his willingness to just sit there and chat beyond the sign here on the dotted line and we'll get this done and then it's yours and I'm off to do the next thing.
Sure.
He was that guy who said, yeah, I'm willing to help you out. Now, again, in retrospect, there's a lot of things that I wouldn't do the way that he did them. He was very all over the place, kind of messy and, you know, didn't do the best quality of work and some of that kind of stuff. And I guess you can learn that, you know, in the same way. Some things you learn you want to do that way, and some things you may look at and say, I think I'll do that a little bit different. But ultimately, he encouraged me. He came and picked me up in his car. We went and got McDonald's. I still remember what the order was for some reason. It's funny how you can remember some things and you can't remember what you had yesterday for
that's
lunch.
so true.
But I still remember going to McDonald's, getting some sandwiches, sitting there and just chatting about what's the next step? What do I do now? I want to buy this property. You made me a decent deal. I have enough that I can put money into it, fix it up, and then flip it or rent it or whatever, but I don't know the steps in between. And he sat there and talked to me and, you know, kind of gave me some vision and some perspective on how it really is going to look, not what you see online. And I was able to put that into practice, and we ended up making around $25,000 in profit on that.
Nice.
And that's the money that I used to move to Arizona after my wife and I got married and decided to transition out there for a period of time.
Nice.
So I don't know where he is anymore, to be honest. But he was definitely put in my life for a reason, and that was the propulsion that sent me to the next level, that got me started, and then gave me the confidence to continue.
Okay.
So that's a really cool real estate related story, I would say, that I think back on a lot because he was the person. I don't come from a family of real estate investors. I didn't have somebody I could go to necessarily, and he was that person for me. So there are definitely people like that I'm sure y'all can think of in your own life that may have been there for a specific reason for a period of time and can apply that now in your daily life, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And those are two great examples, and they're uplifting examples of reason.
Yeah.
Maybe we should talk about a couple stories where the reason was a lot more challenging to go through.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah, I've got some great ones that I can lean into, but do you want to start
I got a couple. Yeah, mine will be short. So I watched, a sermon a long time ago. The pastor was talking about people in our lives.
Yeah.
The people that maybe at that season are frustrating for us. And what he did was he ran all over the church and he would call out what that person was just as somebody random in the congregation. But he had Christmas bows and he was sticking them on people's heads.
No way.
Yeah, he was like, what a gift you gave me. Thank you for that season of struggle. Thank you for that season of insecurity and doubt, because I grew from it and I learned from it. So even though in that moment you were frustrating for me, you gave me something that I couldn't get myself and learn on my own. And I was like, wow.
That's a neat idea.
Isn't that awesome? If you look at somebody that we all have them, we have people, friends, family, coworkers that we almost can't stand. It's just like it's so hard to go back and be in that same space with that same person, because it's just no matter what you do, you're not going to jive, you're not going to click. But put a bow on them. I loved that. And I have people in my life that I put a bow on. I look back now, but when I was at my last job, I was praying for God to make me a little bit better at detail. I could do the engineering work, the big stuff, but when it came down to the details, man, I would miss things. I'm like, God, please, strengthen my attention to detail. And I thought he was going to just do a work in me and I was going to get better in that. That's not what he did.
It almost never is.
It's not even close to what he did.
It never happens the way you think it's gonna.
So I'm sitting there and we were hiring somebody new, and that person came on board. And oh my goodness, it was unreal how young, how sharp. This person was better at my own job than I was, and it took less than a year to see it. And it was so hard for me to just fathom that, to the point that we were doing some cross-checking on ECRs and stuff that we were writing. And this individual caught half of my ECR was wrong.
Wow.
And they were right.
What is an ECR?
It's an engineering change notice that we have to write up that spells out the changes that are happening to the project at the time that we're making or we're responsible for. So I wrote that up, and man, it was bad. And this person caught it, tore it to shreds. And you have two options there. You can get mad, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I wasn't a little bit hurt and a little bit frustrated. But at the same time, you got to take accountability and go, they're right.
Yeah.
I dropped the ball on this hard. So God's answer to my prayer of growing in detail was not, here's a little bit of extra gifting for you. Here's a little extra blessing over you.
Yeah.
No, he's like, here's somebody better than you at your job.
He sent somebody to challenge you.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Figure it out, big boy. Seriously, it was that was a reason. That person sharpened me in so many ways. In patience, in self-understanding, in growth, in discipline, and intention, detail. It really made me step up my game in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And it was not an easy season.
Yeah.
It was hard, and I felt frustrated, and I still probably didn't handle everything as well as I could have in that season. But I look back at it now, standing here on the promise side going, gosh, thank you. I'm so glad that all that went down, because I don't know that I'd be sitting here today.
Yeah.
If God hadn't answered the prayer in the way that he did, and he had the sight to see that.
That's a good story. I have a similar one that is very painful, far more expensive. It's also in the business space. When I was in Arizona, we had a business out there that I talk a little bit about, I think in episode 1, when we tell our stories a little bit. So you guys can go back and listen to the full story about what it is that we both went through growing up, our experiences in life, and so on. When we moved to Arizona, I started a business with a guy that I met at our church out there, and he was already in the jewelry space. And we'd fly into a city that had a solid jewelry industry. We would buy diamonds, watches, things of high value for less than, for wholesale, take them back to Phoenix area, and we would sell them to high net worth clients. Well, we did that for quite a while. And there were telltale signs that this business partner of mine was not really as honest with high integrity as I originally had thought. But I kind of kept pushing that down, just ignoring it and saying, okay, this is happenstance. It just happened because there was no way to control it. Hindsight being 2020, I recognize now that was not the fact, but I just kept saying that, okay, it's another situation where we didn't have any control over it, and over time, those things built on each other. And we had many experiences, but the one that kind of broke the camel's back was that we went to Philadelphia, Jewelers Row, and we bought $120,000 worth of diamonds and jewelry. We took it back to Arizona, and when we got there, we thought we already had it sold. We got in contact with the guy, and he basically bought it but didn't pay for it. He said that he would write us a check, and I made it clear to my business partner, do not give him the product until he pays and that check clears the bank. Well, again, now looking back, I realized that they were in communication with each other, and I was on the outs. And so he gave that person all of what we had purchased, and that guy just disappeared. And I never was able to find him again. Shortly after that, we went our separate ways, and it killed me for a long time. I realize now that that was for a reason, to build me up and help me grow in understanding of the human factor, and kind of be able to look at somebody and within just a few minutes recognize their heart, and through conversation kind of be able to understand, okay, that, maybe this isn't something that I want to be involved in. And it really brought clarity to my situation from that point forward. It helped me understand a little bit better the human element, personalities, how to handle business and how not to handle business. And I've been able to apply that in a lot of different areas of our life. As you know, it's hard for me to be in a partnership. I'm very hesitant and kind of fearful, is maybe a strong word, but that's the truth. If I'm being transparent, it scares me because I've been in partnerships that have failed. And I've heard people say many, many times, the only ship that sinks is a partnership.
Yeah.
And so that goes through my mind over and over and over. And it's really been more about trusting the Lord when the Holy Spirit speaks to my heart and says, this is good, this is okay.
Right.
Let's move forward.
Yeah.
And following that. But I recognize, looking back now, that the reason that I was in that partnership prior to this one was to help me learn and grow and improve, so that now I can recognize and not make those same mistakes that I made then. So that's another kind of interesting story.
Yeah,
Let's move on.
Those are good ones.
To the season, the type of person that's in your life for a season. Now, these can be people that maybe you grew up with, and now you've moved on, they've moved on, you get married, you have families, you take jobs in other areas of the country or whatever. Life takes you in a different direction. So they're with you for a season, they pour into you, you pour into them. It's the kind of relationship that feels like it's going to be a lifetime. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's hard to recognize when you have to be willing and able to let that go. So I'd like to hear maybe somebody in your life that fits this criteria.
Yeah, so I have one from a previous employment, actually. It was like a work brother, really.
Yeah.
He came on the team. I think I had started there. He started a little after I did. But he was gifted, man, and God was with him for sure. He was quickly advanced, promoted, actually became my supervisor, my team lead. And it was so fun walking alongside him because he's one of those guys that would just spend time with you. You could pray together, you could share, you could be transparent, and he would challenge you when it was time to be challenged. So where I was quick to say that something's wrong and we just need to do X, Y, or Z, he would go, hold on. Let's give it some more time. Let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can help in a different way. And it was like I needed that. So he doesn't realize how much he did for me in my season at that employer. So for me, there was just a tremendous amount of development, and I believe a lot that he was a big part of even where I am now, because you have to learn those lessons about leadership and influence and patience. But also, he was also willing to take the stand when the time was right. He knew that if a boundary was being crossed, it was time to take a stand, but he was very good about not being too quick. A lot of people struggle with emotional intelligence, so they're so quick to react on just a feeling. And the composure this guy had through moments where I would have gotten out of my seat and flipped a table over was something to be admired. And I'm just like, how does he keep his composure? And I knew I desired that. I want to be that person that people see as unshakable, that can go through the storm. If you're in the storm, become it. Become the storm. Change your perspective. He taught me so much. We went through things with work together, with personal things together. We prayed for each other. And so for me, that season of influence was Andrew at my last job. So
yeah, that's cool. I have so many in this season category that I feel like I could talk about. One in particular that comes to mind is a boss that I had. I used to work for a technology company as an engineer when I left, but I didn't start there. I started as an installer and service call tech, basically going in and out of people's houses to fix their cable when they didn't have internet or their channels weren't coming in. I was that guy. And my boss who hired me was incredibly understanding of my situation. At that time, we had lost everything. We were living in a garage. We had just actually, I think, moved out of the garage that we were living in into a little duplex. But I had a certain amount of expenses, and my budget, it wasn't equal to my pay at this job. And this boss recognized that. We had several conversations about it, and he said, you know what? Come in an hour early. every day, 5 days a week. You come in 1 hour early. We'll give you an extra job that you can go take care of, and that will get you to the budget that you needed. And just his willingness to recognize my situation and put me in a position to provide for my family was awe-inspiring. And he was that person who was there for a season. He actually passed away while I still worked there very suddenly. He got sick one day, went home, and passed away later that day, which was shocking and horrifying at the time, very hard to deal with. But I recognize now, looking back, that he was put in my life at a season where my wife was pregnant. We have very little income. We didn't know what trajectory we were headed, where God was calling us. And so we were just kind of one foot in front of the other for a while to figure this whole thing out and, let it grow from there. And he was a person that really helped to give me the little thing that I needed. And now I look back at it and go, wow, that little thing made such a huge difference.
So good.
There's several others. I had a friend I was in high school with that we were very, very close. And we transferred from one school to another. We were together every day. We rode to school. We rode home from school. We were in almost every class together. He stayed at my house. I stayed at his house. We were like brothers.
Wow.
And we're still close and we talk, but our paths have taken a different route. He's got a family, he's got several daughters, and he's a pastor, and his heart is in ministry. It's incredible.
Wow.
And I'm thrilled for him. Mine has gone more the route of real estate and business, and I have a family too and stuff. So we still see each other, we chat. I love him with my whole heart, but our paths are just different. And that season when we were in school, we were each other's support system. And I don't know that I would have gotten all the way through high school and graduated if it wouldn't have been for that relationship.
Very cool.
Because I just floundered and I wasn't a very good student at the time, which is proof that you can become something even if you don't thrive in a school atmosphere. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So true.
One thing that actually comes to mind for me in this regard for a season is social media. Do you know how you kind of plug into somebody on social media that has like interests, but has further experience beyond what you have, and you recognize that you can learn a lot from what they're putting out?
Yeah.
And so you really dive deep into their content. You hear everything that they have to put out and that they're saying, and you try to apply those little nuances to your own life to grow to what you hopefully will achieve at some point. And then you get to a point where you don't need that anymore. Like, you've learned and grown to the point that what they're putting out is no longer applicable for you. You've grown past that, and it's time to move on to spread your own wings, if you will. So I recognize that a lot too. And this is not necessarily a direct relationship with somebody, but it's a season where you can plug into somebody on social media or somebody that you don't physically know, maybe a pastor that you're learning from who's, pouring into your life. And then you are like, you know what? That's what I needed in that season. Now I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
So let's get up. Let's get after it. Let's go.
Man, that's good stuff, Jake. That's some inspiring good stuff. I want to shift gears a little bit on this same topic.
Okay.
I cried. Let me back up.
Okay.
So I got
now we're getting real serious.
Yeah, I cried. I was 18. I cried in a Ford Festiva driving home. Called my mom. Remember that? It was rough. I was young. I got fired from a job. I got fired hard from a job.
Really?
And I deserved it, all of it. Looking back, like reflecting on it now, I can see it. But I got fired and I cried. So I was working at a job, and I don't come from education. So when I was getting my degrees and stuff, I didn't know how to handle it. Nobody taught me how to manage humility at a young age when you feel like you're winning. So I had a bad attitude. I was arrogant. I was entitled. And I got fired. This guy pulled me in his office, and he's like, dude, you're done. You got to get your stuff. You're out. And he just kept laying into me. He's like, you've got the wrong attitude. Nobody wants to work with somebody that acts like you. And I don't even know that I did anything wrong. He's like, I wouldn't hire you if you had 15 degrees. He's like, if you don't change your attitude, you're not going to find a job.
Yeah.
The reason this was relevant was this was my first job in drafting around my education. I was getting my degree. I got plugged into a job doing what I was going to school for. I was making a little bit of money. So for me, it was a lot of weight. I was excited. I got fired hard from a job that I was like, I made it.
Yeah.
At 18, like, it doesn't take much to feel that. So he broke me. I mean, I broke.
Yeah.
But it was perfect. What I learned in that was that you got to lose this entitled spirit, this, what are you going to give me if I work here? you have to go, what can I give you if you let me work here?
Right.
How can I serve you guys if you give me the opportunity to be on this team? That taught me to be humble, to shift my attitude from what am I going to get to what can I give you guys for the opportunity. And it was perfect. It was so good to learn that early. I would have hated to learn that later in life. But I mean, we're going back to more of a negative side thing, but looking back, I see the promise now.
Yeah.
But in that moment, that was one of the hardest things, was driving home at 18 and calling your mom and telling her you got fired hard at a job that you just had gotten from your degree and your schooling.
Yeah.
I mean, it lit me up. I can feel the emotions right now like it just happened.
Right.
But I appreciate that person for doing it the way he did it, because I think any softer than that would have been less impactful. So I almost needed him to deliver it the way he did and be that transparent and that direct so that it resonated the way it needed to.
Yeah.
I think if he had padded it or said, well, we're just kind of downsizing a little bit and we got to lose some team members and you just started, so we got to let you go, I think it would have looked different. I'd be like, oh, okay, well, they didn't have room for me right now. But I would have carried the same crappy attitude to the next employer.
Yeah.
And I didn't, because that guy gave me exactly what I needed in that season.
It helps you to kind of look at the way that now you recognize culture is so much more important in most cases than education. Now, granted, depending on your field, you have to have education to do certain things. But if you can surround yourself with a people who are like-minded and have a great culture in a business, I am of the opinion that that business is going so much further than the group of people who just have a degree and say they're qualified.
100% agree. Yep.
So you learn these things by experience. That's a perfect example.
Yeah, I needed it.
You really get knocked down to size, and then you look back at it and you go, now I recognize how important it was that I should have been a servant to all, to everybody that I could have been in that situation. If I would have been somebody who helped to elevate and propel the culture rather than drag it down, I would have gone so much further in that company.
Pride comes before the fall.
Oh my goodness.
That was a literal example for me personally that just said, wow.
Yeah.
I got cocky, I got prideful, and then I got fired.
Yeah.
Okay, I see you, God. I see you moving. Like, break my spirit so that I can be stronger tomorrow,
Right.
So let's go to Lifetime, man.
Yeah, Lifetime for me, like I said at the beginning of this, really boils down to family in a lot of cases. Those people who you don't necessarily choose, they're in your life, whether you like it or not. Your parents, your siblings, your cousins, your uncles and aunts, and those people that can pour into you over your entire lifespan. And you may not be around them all the time, but when you are, you just have a different feeling. You know that they have your best interest at heart. And I feel that way about my family as well. Like, I am there for life for them. I don't see them every day. I'm not involved in everything that they do, but they don't have to question whether I would be there in a moment's notice for them in any situation that they needed me. All they got to do is send me a text or a call and say, listen, this is a situation that I'm going through and I need your help with it.
Yep.
I have a great example of that. I have cousins who have kids as well, and those kids are growing up. They're getting to an age where they want to move out on their own. And one of them had contacted me about a son that he had that was newly married, looking for an apartment, and wanted to know if I would rent an apartment to his son. And I had the conversation with him that was like, I love you guys. You're my family. I would do anything for you. And if it comes down to it and there are no other options, yes, I absolutely will do that. However, our company has a rule that we don't rent to family. And the reasons for that are because I've got to be the same jerk to him that I'm going to be to this tenant because they didn't pay their rent on time. They're not clean enough. They're not respectful to the tenants around them, and so on and so forth.
I don't rent to friends and family either.
Yeah, I don't want to be the person who has to come down on family for doing things the way that they do. If it's the way they do it in their own home, fine, that's on them. But when I have to be kind of an overseer of everybody that's living in our apartments, I want to separate family and business as much as possible.
I don't loan money to family either. Like, I don't do those things because you start to mix those two up.
Yeah.
The relationship is worth so much more than a rent check.
Yeah.
Or than getting paid back that $1,000.
Yep.
If I give somebody money or whatever, it's a gift.
Yeah.
If you pay me back, great.
Right.
If not, I'm over it. And
Yeah.
that'll just be the last time we do it. But I'm totally with you. Business and family and friends, you can't mix it. I want to keep the relationship.
Yes.
You'll get over the hurt of this right now, and you'll still talk to me again later on, and we'll still be close.
Right.
But if you drag that and create a barrier in there on something like that where you're constant, you can tear that relationship up and never talk again. And that's
Right.
not.
Right. And it's funny now that I look back at that particular situation. There have been other ones too, but that specific one that I'm referring to decided that it was going to be best for them to move to a different state. They have now since had a couple of kids. They've created a life for themselves that seems like an incredible life.
Yeah, awesome.
But it was kind of that spot where they were like, if I would have said yes and put them in there, who knows what the trajectory could have or would have been down the road.
Great perspective. Yeah.
And so everything, it seems, as you look back on it, you think, I see the reason behind that now. I didn't in the moment. It was really just my conviction in saying, this is how the business needs to handle this, and I don't want to cross over family and business because the end result could be problematic. However, if I have to serve in this capacity because you just have no other options, I get that. I want to be there for you, and I will be. We can talk through this and make it work.
Yeah.
That's an example that I didn't even write down, but it's something that just came to mind.
Yeah.
But family is really, and there are going to be, I guess, those few people that are always going to be involved in your life from a very, very young age until you go home to be with the Lord.
Yeah.
But they are very few and far between.
They are. Yeah. The lifetime one is definitely the smallest group.
Yeah. I can actually think of one for my wife that they met in kindergarten, and they have continued to be friends through this whole thing. They text every day or every couple of days. They have their family and they live in a different city, still in the Midwest, but they have their own life and do separate things. And we have ours and we do separate things, but they're constantly checking in on each other, confiding in each other, talking through their blessings and their struggles. From the outside looking in, I can tell that is a lifetime relationship. It's going to continue from now until they both go home to be with the Lord.
Yeah.
Those are cool to watch.
Absolutely.
Especially outside of the family space. We kind of already know that, your dad is going to be your dad and your mom is going to be your mom.
Absolutely.
From start to finish.
Yep.
And you're going to be involved in their life and they in yours in some capacity throughout your existence. And hopefully you guys can have a great relationship and you can work together and you can confide in each other. That's always going to be there. But it's interesting from the outside looking in to see some of those relationships that you recognize are lifelong relationships that are not bound by family.
Family, yeah, because most of them are family, So lifelong relationships, they can teach you a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Raising my boys, lifelong, they're going to be there forever. And I've learned a tremendous amount of stuff from my boys. And so there's just been so much growth and learning with those relationships. My current wife, I think our partnership, I would like to see this just last till one of us or both of us is gone, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what we're going to do. And I think what's important with lifelong relationships is being able to be self-aware enough to recognize and set boundaries. Like, we have to love, but not everybody you're connected to has to have a degree of influence over you and what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And what you tell yourself. So we have to be guarded to those things. Like, I love my mom and dad, but I have boundaries around what I take with me.
Yeah.
My dad's got some great things. I take some of those with me, but I leave some of the other stuff with him. I can't take that with me. And my mom's got some amazing things that she does that just influence me. I take them with me. And then I leave some of the things that aren't going to serve me well with her, because you've got to be careful. Right. You can love them, you can be close to them, and you should. Because everybody's different, and everybody was shaped growing up. There's nothing wrong with anybody that's in your circle or in your lifetime, but it's just a matter of knowing those and a commitment. Like, you got to stay committed to those that are your lifelong people, But for a lot of people, our upbringing is tough for our lifelong relationships from our parents and who we're around as we grow up. There was a study done, and it's fascinating. So the next time you're thinking on how you got to be, well, I grew up like this, or mom did this, or dad did that, and that's just going to be my life. A flea, this is kind of a weird example. So a flea has a 36-inch vertical. A flea can jump 36 inches.
Wow.
That's pretty high.
Yeah.
And so all fleas can do that. It's innate. It's in that's in their build. They can jump 36 inches. If you take a flea and you put it in a jar and you put a lid on it, the flea will still jump, and it will still try to jump 36 inches. Now, if you had that flea in that jar and it had a baby flea, that flea that's jumping now knows it can't jump higher. So it can only jump so far. So now that flea, because of its belief system, has the influence over the smaller flea, the baby flea. That smaller flea now will only jump that high.
Wow.
It's born with the 36-inch vertical,
Yeah.
but it's only jumping 4 inches
Yeah, it's a mindset.
because it thinks it has to adapt to what it knows because of its influence. That's humans. We are the same way.
That's true.
So that's what I mean by boundaries and leaving things behind and taking things with you. You have to be selective because it doesn't all serve you well.
Right.
Don't jump 4 inches
Yeah.
when you can jump 36. Believe you can. And so that lifelong thing is commitment, it's dedication, it's love, it's unconditional. It can't change. But unconditional love doesn't mean you have to adapt everything that you were influenced by.
That's true.
Be better, do better, grow better, and be that. It's forgiveness, patience, and intentional maintenance, I think is a good way to put it.
Intentional maintenance. Okay.
Intentional maintenance. Focus on the decisions you're making around the influences you have in your life. Don't just passively take the influences. So that lifetime one's super big and super important.
Yeah.
You can't really be selective in it, that's the hard part. I love how you said that earlier. Just like, this is your family. These are the people that are just going to be with you from the minute you were born to you're dead. And you can't really choose them.
No.
So there has to be some intentionality in there.
Yeah. There can always be a certain level of separation, I guess, too. You're going to come back to that same person, that relationship, but it doesn't mean that you have to be super close from inception to completion.
Yep.
You're going to kind of go through seasons of, you may not even be close to certain family members. You may live across the country from your family, or I don't know, whatever the case might be. You learn to adapt your relationship to whatever your circumstance is over time, but you still never walk away from that relationship. It's always there. It's always something to come back to. It's always somebody that you know in the back of your mind, if all else falls apart and fails, I'm going back to this person to be encouraged, to just do life with.
Yeah.
We don't even have to do anything, say anything. I don't need to get encouragement from you.
No.
We don't have to figure out all the world's problems.
Yeah.
Let's just sit out on the couch and watch a football game.
And you don't have to agree on everything.
Yes.
You can still spend time together and you don't have to agree on everything.
That might be the best part of your lifetime relationships, is that you may have completely different perspectives, and that's okay.
Yeah. Hard opposing beliefs on something is fine. You can still spend time together and eat some chicken wings and watch a football game.
Yep. You love each other.
Yeah.
You encourage each other to go do whatever it is that you're doing, and you just enjoy each other's company in the process.
Yep. Love the person, leave room for the opinions.
There you go.
But you don't have to fight about it.
There you go. I love it.
It's good, man.
That's really, really good. Let's conclude kind of explaining what it is that we've talked about today. If you want to dive into that a little bit, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So what we were talking about today as we ran through these 3 things, which was the reason, the season, and the lifetime. These are relationships, these are interactions, engagements you've had, situations you've gone through that maybe frustrated you, or maybe they were an absolute win and they were like a springboard for you to that next level. We just want to focus on having and maintaining a perspective through each of those where you can see God's promise on the other side that Romans 8:28 talks about, where he's working all things for the good. So if we have that perspective, you can go into the season with that individual, that person, that group, and go, I know there's work being done in this. This is tough, but I know there's work being done. What a great attitude to have going in that. So when you're going through a reason with somebody, try to find it, have a positive perspective on it. If you're in a season and it feels like it's not going to end as quickly as maybe you wanted to, or maybe you'd love to stay in it longer, just recognize there's work being done. And in the lifetime, stay close, love everyone that's in your circle, because we don't always get to choose those people, but make sure you set some boundaries and you're intentional about how you're treating yourself and what you're doing, because not everything you're around with your lifetime people needs to flow into you and turn you into what you're around. You can control that to some degree, but we just have to celebrate those moments more than we should get frustrated. It's okay to feel frustration, but try quickly to control that and have a perception of like, there's something good coming out of this and I can't wait to see the promise God has for me on the other side of this.
Yeah. Try to find the value in every single circumstance, situation, and relationship that you're in. Sometimes it's hard to know whether this person is a reason, a season, or a lifetime kind of person. And the faster you can kind of recognize that, the better. But at the same time, when you're in the middle of the situation or the relationship, you can't always tell which category this person falls into. And sometimes it's just about finding value in every circumstance, every situation that you're going through.
Yep.
Because I guarantee you're going to look back on it and go, now I see it. Now I know why. Now I know how I can apply this based on what experience I had through this relationship or this season in my life.
Just visualize putting the bow on their head while you're in the storm.
Yep.
The gift is coming.
Be grateful and thankful, I guess, for every scenario. Some are hard, some are easy, but they're all going to challenge you to be a better version of yourself.
Yeah, this was a great episode. I hope you guys all got something out of this. We appreciate you guys for following us, subscribing, liking our content, comment, keep them coming. We love to hear from you guys and the listeners. And we just thank you for tuning in today. We'll catch up next week.
And before we go, I think we should mention that our handle on pretty much every social media platform is @CourageousStewards. And you guys can find us on any of those platforms. We're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everything. So if you type in our handle @CourageousStewards, you'll find us. Go check out our content and enjoy it. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us today on Courageous Stewards, where legacy meets leadership and faith fuels the journey.
If this episode stirred something in you, share it with someone who's ready to step boldly into their calling. Subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected as we continue to explore what it means to lead with conviction, serve with excellence, and build with eternity in mind.
So until next time, keep showing up, keep stewarding well, and remember, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's obedience in motion.